I get an email saying, hey, we want to accept your bid. It was in the 7 figures easy. Didn't know anything about the margins, a lot of no's. It wasn't overnight. You can go to these state agencies and find something like that. This program, you get a contract within 8 to 12 weeks. There was times I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to work.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to Steve Dixie with Gateway Integrated Solutions. He is a GovCon winner, and I'm so excited to learn about his contract win. But before we do, please welcome Steve. And I would love to talk to us about who you are, what you do. How did you get into this space?
Sure. First, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate it. The time that you're taking throughout, from your busy schedules. I know you're very busy. Just a quick high-level background of myself. I'm retired military, spent 20 years in the Air Force, spent a lot of time in the paralegal legal field. Once I retired, I worked in corporate America, worked at FedEx headquarters in Memphis, Tennessee. I worked at International Paper in Memphis, Tennessee, all as being a paralegal and an HR paralegal. Moved from Memphis back to Richmond, and where I worked at Capital One as a HR person as well. So basically, one day I was at Capital One working as an HR person. I did background screening for contractors. I dealt with a lot of third-party vendors and things like that. So we was putting together a deal. I knew nothing about staffing, didn't know anything about the margins or anything like that. But I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Probably 5-7 years before that, I owned a franchise, I-9 Sports franchise. So I started kind of getting my feet wet as an entrepreneur running a business. I learned a lot in that business, and I lost a lot of money in that business. But I learned a lot. So moving fast forward, at Capital One, I did a lot of background screening, working with, third-party vendors. And so I was trying to hire someone, and one of the reps said, hey, we can only pay this guy this much. And I was like, well, you're paying him $22 an hour, but you're invoicing us $45 or $50. So I'm starting thinking, I was like, where's that other money going? And she's like, oh, that's our profit. So I'm like, you guys are making money off this guy, and you're just, this company, I was like, they're just sitting there. So right then and there, bells went off, and I called my wife, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna give this staffing thing a try. Because it just made sense. And so I went home, I started learning about the industry a little bit, started the company, still didn't really do anything with it because I was still working at Capital One. 2 years later, got laid off. Then it was either find another corporate position or just go full force in with my company. And that's what I did. I just said, hey, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, Gateway Integrated Solutions, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. Because, I knew I had a background in legal and HR, so I could get a job. But I was like, I'm not going back to corporate America. So this has to work. It has to. And so I took a lot of time, to learn it. I did a lot of networking, took my bumps and bruises, trying to get contracts on the public and private side. A lot of no's. I mean, a bunch of no's. But that didn't deter me, because, being prior military, I knew I had the discipline. I knew how to build a structure. I knew how to build a team. And so, it just took me that time to kind of build up to, where I was able to, win this one contract. And it wasn't overnight, and I'm on the calls with you guys all the time. And I know sometimes I may bug you on LinkedIn, and I'd be like, hey, I want to do this, want to do that. And the good thing about you is that you respond so quickly. And I know that you're busy. And I was like, man, she's not going to answer me back right away. And then I get my little message indicator. I said, oh, she, emailed me back. And so, I want to thank you that. And that kind of, one of the things you always said was, if you don't do it, if you don't bid, you don't know if you're going to win or if you're going to lose. And so when I saw the proposal that I went after, I was in that position. I was like, I have nothing to lose. I can either win it, and if I lose it, they'll debrief me. So then the next one, I'll know what not to do. But I was very strategic about this RFP because there was a lot of positions with, information with IT people and different type of skill set. So I knew I was going up against big companies. So what I did was I saw 4 roles that I knew I could staff. There was administrative support roles, but I was like, hey, with the margins there, because with the proposal, there was a not to exceed limit. So with the not to exceed limit, that made me feel better because I knew administrative individuals are getting anywhere from 18 to 20, 21,000 an hour. So with their not to exceed limit was 45, 50. I was like, well, these are pretty decent margins. And so I could fill one administrative support position, but with that one role, there may be 10 to 15 contractors per role. So I could wind up actually getting anywhere from 40 to 50 people just on these 4 roles.
Right.
So,
and if I may, so we're all, because I love this, who was this contract for? Because I want to just quickly recap. Served in the military, and thank you for your service. You worked in all of these positions. You took 2 years to say, okay, I'm finally going to go out there. Then sometimes a door closes, and that's what happened. Layoff. Hey, I'm going to make this work.
right.
Then you start, you're doing it, and then you get into government contracting side. So break down for all of us, who is this agency? What kind of roles? Tell us more, because this is exciting.
Okay. Yeah, so it was with the state of South Dakota. And so it was a invite only. How I got on that invite only list, I have no idea. I have no clue. Only thing I know I do is I respond to everything. Nothing comes across my email that, I read everything and I respond to it. I read it, I respond. And, that's one of the things that, I've learned to do is that if you respond, eventually someone is going to email you back or say, hey, we're interested in your services. And so that was the contract with the state of South Dakota. It was an invite only. It wasn't any set aside, but I figured invite only is just as good as a set aside.
Right.
And so
that's key. I want to really emphasize that. That's super key because, like you said, even if you don't win, first off, you can't win if you don't take a chance. Even at the state level, they'll give debriefs. They'll give you some type of information. Okay, so what were these positions? What are these positions for? So invite only, state of South Dakota.
So the position was for administrative. It was administrative support, executive administration, and scanning. And I think there was one for a data analyst. So they was very simple positions, but the margins was there. And one thing I knew is there's one thing that I'm good at, and that's writing. And so I knew how to I didn't know how to write a proposal, but being a paralegal, I knew when they ask a simple question, you give a simple answer.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they'll look at it and they may ask you, how many years have you done this? And they'll go, well, I've done this and this and I've done that. And I just said, I've done this for 3 years, period. And that's it. And I was very specific about, what they wanted, what they asked. I didn't. And one of the things you always said, if you don't have no experience, it's really not a problem. I haven't really staffed anywhere. I haven't staffed anyone, but I have worked with different individuals in different companies, like with Worldwide Technology. And I had some other guys that I worked with that I helped pre-proposal. Even though they didn't win the award, when I reached back out to those guys, I was like, hey, you asked me to do something. I fulfilled my agreement with you. Can you write me a past performance? And they was like, sure. And that's how I built up my past performance. It wasn't about how much money I had made on those guys. It was my performance while I was helping them do the pre-proposal. And so that came in handy. So that's where my past performance came in.
I just got to add, I love that because what that is all about is you demonstrating to South Dakota or whoever the agency is that you're able to do the thing. That's what they're looking for. The past performance isn't about how much money you made. Did you get an award? Are you on the cover of a magazine? It's, can you do it? Because the worst thing, we've all experienced it. You hire somebody to come in. It could be plumbing. It could be painting. It could be a carpet. They leave and then you're like, man, I can't believe they did this. I could have done this better. And you're like, I thought that they had experience or I thought the reviews were correct. That's what they're trying to do is minimize risk. So I love that you reached out in that way because the same applies to anyone who's ever sub. You can still ask for past performance. You don't have to be the prime or the name on the marquee. Like, oh, I love this. Okay, keep going.
So I wrote the proposal. And one of the things, they ask you what type of software you used and different type of things, recruiting tools, recruiting software. So I have that in place. I had the structure in place. I had, my payroll set up. I had my recruiting tool set up. So I was like, this is who I'm using. This is what I've done in the past. Basically, that was it. And I took the time because I had to submit it on a totally different software that the state of South Dakota used. So I reached out, told them, I was like, hey, my proposal is ready, and you give me the link or give me the information to submit it. They provided me with that, and I just submitted it. And one of the things I did contact the contracting officer, but I didn't bug her. And I just said, hey, I'm interested in submitting a bid for this proposal. These are the roles that I want to submit it for. And I put 4 roles down here, and that was it.
How many did they have?
Oh, it was probably about 70, 75.
Did they already inform you that you could select from?
Yeah.
I love that, because to your earlier point, even if you just fill one position, that could be tons of people.
Right.
It's a big, even if it's a tiny state, even if it's like a New Hampshire, you don't know the volume of their need.
No, and the thing about this particular contract is that, it's with it's with a certain department. And so within that department, they have I think 12 to 15 offices throughout the state of South Dakota. So it's with the Department of Social Services, South Dakota. And so they have so many offices throughout South Dakota. And so I'm, going through my mind, I was like, okay, if they can give me one person in each one of these locations for each one of these roles, I'm going to make some decent money.
You make really good money.
My brother, he's my go-to guy. He's an accountant. And so I just put the minimum down. I was like, hey, man, can you just kind of run some figures for me? Let me know what you think I will make on this. So we looked at it, and it was in the 7 figures easy, just over a 3-year contract on a minimum.
Minimum. And that's the other thing. This isn't like reselling pens. You don't need to sell 1 million of these.
No.
You can have one contract, and you work that one contract, you're good. Because then they're going to, who knows, maybe a year from now, they're like, listen, we have this other opportunity at the universities, and we thought of you, it's invite only. Maybe they open up some new center. Hey, we thought of you. It's not about the volume game. It's getting in with multi-year profitable work that you can really grow. Oh my gosh.
And so that was my plan. So, like I said, I wrote it. I was very specific with it. I didn't hear anything back for a couple of months, but I think they said they was going to have the award date. I think the award date was 1 June. And so, June that came by, I was like, I probably didn't get it. So I just started looking for something else to do. And then I think 2 or 3 weeks later, I get an email saying, hey, we want to accept your bid. Here's the information that we're going to need from you. You should be receiving your contract within the next couple of weeks. So I've been working with them now. I've set up my direct deposit. I got a vendor number with them. So I'm just waiting on my contract to give me more details as to exactly how I'm going to, fulfill it. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It's my first one. It took me forever. But, like you said, you have to stick with it. I don't have any backup. This is it for me. And I was, I was telling my wife, we was talking one day, and I was remember this quote that Kobe said was they asked him, they was like, you put all your eggs in one basket. And he was like, yes. He was like, well, what happens you have, get so many eggs? He's like, I get a bigger basket. And so that was my thing. I was like, this is it for me. I don't have anything else. I got to make this work. I was blessed, to win those 4 little roles. But, I feel comfortable with it. And being a prior contractor, I understand what they want and what they're needing for us to pay and things like that. So, and if you pay a contractor a good salary and not try to make so much money yourself, because you're going to make some money in staffing. That's just the bottom line. But if you're going to be greedy and not pay your contractors, you're going to have a high turnover, and that's going to keep you busy. recruiting. And so, I think we have a pretty good hourly rate for each one of our positions. I don't think they're going to be running. And so we're excited about it. And again, I just wanted to thank you because, once I got, on your team and with GovCon winners, things start to click a little bit more because you're learning in this business every day,
Yes.
every day.
Yes. And I appreciate that. I mean, all the heavy lifting, all of it's you. It's nice to have that mentor there because it clicks and it is learning. It's not, oh, I've been in GovCon for several years or what may have you. I know it all. Let me keep it moving. Like, no, there's always something to learn at the state, local, federal. There's always something to learn. And I want to commend you because there are those out there that would have been like, 70 labor positions. Where am I going to find these people? Like some people may not even know where South Dakota is on the map. I mean, hey,
Right.
I get it, I mean, it's not like the state we all are like thinking about all the time. But at the end of the day, you're like, hey, but I can at least fill, these 4. And that probably meant the world to them because
Right.
there's always those, it's like the jack of all trades, Jane of all trades. Like, oh, I can do it all. I can
Right.
fix your carpet and your walls and your plumbing, and I can build the garage you're looking for, and I can do your gardening. And you're like, what? And so it probably said a lot to them because they're like, oh, wow, this is great. Like he pointed out these 4 because we all appreciate somebody who can do something so well opposed to, they're not
Right.
looking for just muck. And especially a state like South Dakota where you have parts that are very rural. And I imagine given the agency you're supporting, you're going to have positions maybe at or on reservations. You're
Right.
going to have different locations in very rural areas. And so they also realize that they don't want people to be taken advantage of, and then they're going to be on the news. Like I work,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So I love the strategy that you applied because look, you ended up winning.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought about too was one of the things that you mentioned was, boots on the ground. In my process of trying to, put together this proposal, and I started picking out the roles I wanted, and I was like, okay, would it be easier for me to staff an administrative person that's there, that can go on site and be happy with the salary I give her, or would it be easier for me to find a senior network engineer who's saying, I'm not going to South Dakota, it has to be remote. To me, it just made sense to help. And you're probably doing something for the economy as well, because you're going to put some people to work there in South Dakota. And there's a lot of there are a few military bases there, and I know that a lot of dependent wives that they, look for jobs like this because they're only there for like 3 or 4 years, then they're moving on. And so the administrative part really hit me right then, because I was like, it's a lot more easier to fill an administrative position in this region versus a senior network engineer. But, I mean, if I go to D.C., it's different.
We're all different.
But in South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, and places like that, it's probably going to be simpler to fill administrative support position. You have to humble yourself and be like, look, I know I can do this. This is what I can do. I know I'm a staffing agency. I know how to do this. I know how to recruit these people. So let me go do it. It ain't all about the high dollar margins or things like that. Because like you said, most importantly, you got to perform.
Because the money will come. They'll take note of who is performing, who's providing the personnel who are performing and showing up and doing everything that they want.
Right.
And one thing that comes up a lot is, oh, well, my background's IT, or my background is legal, or my background's psychology. Shouldn't I just stay in those areas or provide services in those areas? And it's not so much your area as an expert, it's about that entrepreneurial hat.
Right.
Identifying it's much easier to fill these type of positions, admins, etc., opposed to IT, because then if you win a contract to fill IT positions, not only is it challenging in general, the other thing that often happens is with getting different visas and having them sponsored. And there are companies that are cool with that. But for something like this, it probably won't happen. And so then then somebody would have a contract or labor positions that they can't fill. So it's almost like having a credit card that doesn't work.
Right.
So, or that person who has all the Bitcoin, but they don't know their key to their Bitcoin wallet. So, I mean, and it's frustrating and it's aggravating. So there are those times you got to humble yourself and say, okay, these are the positions. Because again, the money will come.
Right.
No shortage
Exactly.
of money.
Exactly.
And what are some other things, because you talked about direct deposit, you talked about some paperwork. What are some other things that you've been going through to get set up with them?
I did, of course, you have to do your W-9. Everyone asks for a W-9. So once I got the W-9 set up, they set up my direct deposit. Then they gave me a vendor number because, I didn't have a vendor number within the state. So they set that up. And so that's it that I've so far. And I've been in the contracting officer emailed me saying, hey, you should be receiving your contract, but then I should be receiving it. I thought I would have it today, but she said, you'll have it this week, which I was like, that's fine. I know it's coming. I know it's there. So I'm not too much worried about it now, She was like, we're going to get it to you. So that's what I'm waiting on right now, just the contract itself. I have that going, and I just try to keep myself busy with other things as well. So.
And this is really common too. For anyone who's watching, please make sure you like, subscribe, follow, hit that notification button. There are times where you wait, they have to get everything together. There are times where in your email there's a contract, but very similar to the federal side is they pay through direct deposit. That's why it's key to have your business banking set up, have all of that stuff already done, because you don't have to have a bank in that state. And then something that you could do if you wanted to, but you don't have to, you could register in South Dakota as a business. They may require, they may not. Every place is different. That's
right.
The other thing, because you don't live in South Dakota.
Right. That was it. That was one of the things I was worried about.
But at the same time, it helps them because it's maybe, they're like, we want to do something different.
Right.
And so that's the other big takeaway from this. You don't have to live there. No different than a federal contract.
Right.
You don't have to live in that city, live in that state. I mean, think of all of the businesses we patronize. How many of us purchase from Amazon and there's no Amazon warehouse in your city?
Right.
They don't have to be there. That's the beauty of it. Now, if they require in the solicitation some things about city, location, all of that, that's something you're going to have to work out, decide if you want to bid. So I further commend you because we get caught up in these like sexy states, whatever may be sexy to you. Like I think of like New York or California or Florida. And it's like, don't overlook the Dakotas. Washington State is another big state that has a ton of work. Oregon. Oh my God, I didn't even ask this. How did you find out about this opportunity? Because we got the invite. Where would you normally go to find these different state level opportunities?
With this one, well, I go to sam.gov a lot too, but then I also go to state. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so I look at Kentucky. I look at different government sites. I look at all government sites. And I register for different networking or seminars, and they're online, they're virtual. And that's another thing is if you can go to any virtual seminars, I don't care where it is, I would go, because what happens is that while they're talking about, hey, this is what, some upcoming contracts we may have in the state of South Dakota, we're in the chat putting out business information in there with different companies. And so the people that's, they're saying, hey, okay, here's Steve. He's in Nashville and he has a staffing company. So you're registering with each one of these states. And that's how I do. I go to each state. When I see somebody saying, hey, especially, I get a lot of stuff from VA, and then we say, hey, we're having a virtual event out of Nevada. Would you be interested? I'm signing up for it. I don't care, because you just never know. And that's what I do. Whenever, the VA send me something or any other type of entity send me something about a virtual seminar, I definitely sign up and I attend it, because that's how you get on their radar.
It is. It also shows you the sheer number of competition. Because I think we think, oh, why would they ever pick me? Why would a state or agency, why would they pick me? Why wouldn't they pick you? That's how, why shouldn't they pick you? And so then you may think, well, but there's so much competition. And then you go to these events, and what did you notice? Were there thousands of people in attendance?
No, it's not. That's just it. It may be like 15 or 20 companies there at these virtual events. And this is this thing that once you register on those sites, you start getting emails from those different states. They'll be like, hey, we're having another event, for a certain type of staffing or that, thing that we're looking for, services or product that we're looking for. And sometimes it's like things that I can't do, but I still receive the emails. And if I know people, that I know that can do that type of work, I would send it to them, because I'm not a consultant. And so that's something that I don't do. And one guy asked me, I was doing something, he was like, hey, can you do consulting work? And I was like, no, that's not in my lane. So, and I'm not stepping out. I'm not going to try to learn that. When I'm trying to learn this, I could be making this over here in my wheelhouse. And so I stay focused on what I'm supposed to do. That's how I got most, I go, like I said, I go to different state agencies. I just see what they have. You can navigate through those state agencies a lot easier than you can through SAM.gov, because you can spend 2-3 days looking through SAM.gov and never find anything. But you can go to these state agencies and find something like that.
You sure can. And that's why I like the balance. Even my flagship company, we're getting more into state level because we're on a subcontract with the state.
Oh, okay.
We staff all, like, for instance, we have a tutor for the Surgeon General in Spanish of Florida.
Oh, that's cool.
So we have all these different positions, but I've noticed that too. Like, I've been going out there, and the thing is, especially those of you where you're like, oh, I don't want to put out a lot of money. Registering with these states, it costs nothing.
Nothing.
It costs nothing. And then when you're really laser focused and all you're looking at is Tennessee or Oklahoma or Kentucky, you're laser focused, and they're going to post them there probably much faster.
Yeah.
And even if you use some other paid site, plus there may be other information, they're going to notify you, or they may share about the events that Steve is talking about. And that's what's amazing about this, because they're going to want to do business with the people they keep seeing at the events.
Right.
Because it shows them, oh, wow, they really know about us, and we're Idaho. I can't believe that Steve keeps coming to these. This is pretty interesting, because they know there are people in their states. And when I say people, I mean individuals, companies who they're not looking to do work there. And so they have a need, and they're looking for each and every one of us to fulfill that. I love this. What are some types of efforts that you're chasing right now?
I started working on a GSA schedule. I have already submitted my offer for a GSA schedule, so I'm just waiting to hear back from that. Hopefully this week. I just talked to the contracting officer on Friday. That was another one where I just being blessed, a friend of mine that I knew that was in Virginia, she got me in on it. It was a pilot program it was an EASE pilot program through the GSA. So where it normally takes 3 to 6 months to get a GSA contract, this program, you get a contract within 8 to 12 weeks. But you have to do the work. I mean, you have to do it. And the good thing about that was you get assigned one representative up at the GSA level. It was 3 intakes, one intake form 1, intake form 2, and 3. So with each intake form, you have to kind of answer questions. Again, you have to answer questions. And I would email it, took my time, wrote it. She was like, hey, you may want to add this, you may want to do this. So once you get through that process, then you get to the next process. And so this is where you have to be really confident in yourself and find ways to move around the system. I had no income with Gateway, none. And so that was one of the requirements. She was like, well, you don't have any income. I was like, no, but I was introduced to a guy who owns a funding company. And I was like, look, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a GSA schedule. I explained it to him. I was like, can you give me a line of credit? Don't base it off my personal credit. Can you base it off of the strength of the contract that I'm going to get? And so I got a pretty, significant amount of line of credit. So I submitted that letter from the funding company versus invoices. And so she was like, okay, this will work. So that was my only concern. And then once I got past that, I completed all the 3 phases. And so she was like, okay, you can go ahead and submit your offer now. And so there's 3 positions that I put, I think, talent acquisition manager, HR manager, and associate recruiter. And so within those 3 roles, I can go to any company and be like, hey, we have the structure set up. We've been vetted through the GSA. Here's our schedule. We can staff your whatever, if it's a government agency, we can staff 20 people because we have the structure already in place. I'm your HR person, basically. You're the guru of that.
sweet. But this is good for everyone who's listening and for watching to know, because once again, it's not about your GSA schedule encompassing every single thing the government buys. It's also great that you took advantage of a pilot program that cost you that amount of money, zero.
Right.
And what's key is with the GSA schedule, once you get in there, you can modify it.
Yes.
Let's say 3 years from now, Steve may want to add 150 different labor categories.
Right.
May want to apply for other schedules. That's what's golden. And it's great because you can leverage that for people to team with you.
Right.
Like, for instance, we're going through something right now where the reason the company's teaming with us, they're not small and it's on the GSA schedule. So they need somebody like us to partner with.
Right.
It happens all of the time. So I love that you're doing that. Love that. And I love that you use the line of credit because it shows. It's not about, oh, I've billed billions of dollars and here are my invoices, or I have 20,000 years experience staffing 1 million people. It's about what can you demonstrate that minimizes risk? And you did because you got that line of credit, because the GSA schedule is all about he's been vetted, he's going to deliver, there's nothing for you to worry about. So the line of credit, in my opinion, is even stronger than invoices because who knows what's going on behind the scenes with the invoices. So
exactly. I learned a lot about the ledger line of credit versus, just the regular line of credit. So like I said, you learn something every day in this business. And that was something that really helped me out. One of the other companies that I helped do a pre-proposal for, they reached out to me and was like, hey, would you like to do a joint venture? And so I was like, sure. Because, I have certifications, which of course they don't have. And I was like, so they did all the paperwork. They set up the joint venture company. It took 3 years. Everything started to come to fruition, all at the same time, it seemed. And that's why, I said, you can't give up. You just have to keep moving. Don't get me wrong now. There was times when I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. You have those days. Then I was like, what else can I do?
Right.
And so I would get back on it again. I was blessed. Everything came to fruition at that one time. I have those 3 things going. That's it. I'm not doing anything else for right now. I'm not looking for any more work. Right now, I'm just trying to perform, and that's it.
I'm so proud of you. That's all you got to do is perform. The money will come and it will grow.
Yeah.
It will grow. Oh my gosh. Steve, how can people get in contact with you?
They can get contact with me. My email is steve.dixie, D-I-X-I-E, at GIS4.tech. Or they can give me a call, 804-245-6516. If I know it, I would give it to you.
And look, he literally shared his phone number with you. This speaks volumes because so many people, I need help, I want to get help, whomever, I don't want to put their names on blast. There's some of the free they're not doing what you want them to do. Here's somebody who's been there, done it, who's doing it, and he's even giving y'all his phone number. She's also on LinkedIn. Connect with, you got glasses on in the picture there. But
yep, they're right there.
So I love it. But please connect. And I'm so proud of you for this win. You're amazing. I'm always here for you. How can I need help? And I just want to thank you again. So please connect. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification because y'all know everything is possible. So thank you so much.